Karen Carpenter.
Can you put it?
I could, if I knew where it was at. Under fractions, please. Under fractions. I think this will be blindly obvious to you, but if it's not, then we shall talk about this. A little subheading under fractions, which you I'm sure have thousands of under fractions, is this: simply rounding mixed numbers. Or rounding missed hashtags, or whatever they are. And in order to round a mixed number, one must understand what a mixed number is. Trevor, a mixed number is
Fraction or like
fraction.
whole number.
Yeah. Okay. Whole number and fraction. So if you have like this, 5 3/5. The book is going to ask you to round to the nearest whole hashtag. And in order to round to the nearest whole number, Andrew, I have to know what a whole number is too. Does anybody know? Do you know what a whole number is, Andrew?
Something like 1, 2.
So basically a number that doesn't have a fraction.
Yeah.
Which is a hashtag that does not have a fraction. Because would it not have been fun if when your parents taught you to count, they threw fractions in there? So you could have, so they would have gone, all right, Frankie, today we're going to learn to count to 1. Ready, Frankie? 0, 1/16, 1/8, 3/16, 1/4. What comes after that? 5/16, 3/8. Wouldn't that have been fun?
Don't copy that, Frankie.
No. They started off with the whole numbers because they knew you could handle that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they are asking you to round this number so that it doesn't have a fraction. And really it's pretty simple. I'll give you the math lesson to it. I'm sure you don't need it. But you know that 5 3/5 has to fall between 5 and the next whole number, which is 6. So we have to think about this. Here's about halfway. Because if it's halfway, you round up. Oh, that's not good. See, that looked like it was halfway to me, and it really wasn't. You know the best way to find halfway is put your fingers there and stick your nose. That better? How do I know if I round this to 5 or round it to 6? What is the easy way? Well, I have to know, is this fraction greater or less than half? And in order to answer that, Colton, you must know how to figure that out. How do I know if 3/5 is more than half or less than half? I could cut this into fifths, but you really don't want to have to sit there and do that. I mean, in fifths, because some of you are like me and you can't cut things, that doesn't even look like half anymore. Did I miss that? Tell me where do you think half is here? I'm going to start here, and you tell me when I should stop. When it looks like half to you.
Stop. Stop.
No.
Stop.
Stop.
No way.
Wait.
Yes, stop.
Stop. You should just get a ruler.
Yeah, I think this one's a little longer.
Yeah, that is.
Alright. Back to this, rather than trying to cut this into 5 equal pieces and seeing what 3 of them is, the simple rule of thumb is with fractions to tell whether they're greater or less than half. Frankie, you?
It's the like half of the bottom number denominator.
Yes, half of the denominator.
If it's greater than, then it goes to the higher. Then it goes to the higher number. If it's less than, it goes to the lower.
What Frankie is trying to say, but can't really do it here, is this. Look at your fraction. Look at the bottom number. Think about what half of the bottom number is. Well, 5 doesn't have a nice bracket. It is 2.5, if you can think about that. 3 is bigger than half of 5, so that means this fraction has to be bigger than which means it would put it somewhere over here, which means 5 3/5 is actually closer to the whole number 6 than it is to the number 5. So you would say this rounds to 6. Now let's look at a different one. What if I gave you 17 and 19/40ths? Is 19/40ths bigger than 1/2 or less than 1/2, and why would you say, Jacob?
Less than 40. I mean, half 40 is 20.
19 is less than 20, so that means this is just a shot smaller than that. But the number still has to be between 17 and 18. Is it closer to 17 or closer to 18?
17.
Yeah. By the way, you'll never subtract from this number. You never make it 16. It either stays the same or you round up.
How will we write this on a paper?
I would write 17, 19/40 equals, and then I would just put 17 and circle it. You always want to be able to look at your paper and see what the problem was. You don't always want just an answer, unless it says to do mentally, and even then sometimes you have to do it. Well, what they're going to do, here's one of the problems. This is kind of, like the book will say, estimate the area of this rectangle. And then they will give you a rectangle that maybe is, let's say it is, I don't know, 3 1/8 by 6 5/8. If they asked you to do that, what would you write on your paper? You would draw the rectangle, you draw the dimensions, and then, since it said to estimate, you'd want to round to the nearest whole number. What does 3 1/8 round to, Jordan Shaw? Is 1/8 closer? Is it going to be 3 or 4? Is this closer to 3 or 4? Think about the fraction 1/8, Jordan Shaw. What's half of 8? 4. This is much smaller than that. So this would round and stay at 3. 6 5/8 would round, Marilyn, to 7, because 5/8 is bigger than 1/2. And then when you round this, or when you figure out the area, 3 times 7 is 21. And let's say these were inches because we're using silly fractions. Did I do that right?
Yeah.
Inches squared. So this would be all stuff that you have on your paper so that you can see what you do. You want to be able to look back at your work and say, if you made a mistake, say, where did I go wrong? I should be able to tell. You shouldn't have to go back and look. Or they might ask you this, estimate the product. Estimate the product of 9 4/5 and 5 1/3. 9 4/5 and 5 1/3. What would you write on your paper? Well, you would write this, 9 4/5 times 5 1/3. But lucky you, they said to estimate, which means you're going to change these to the closest whole number. What would these things change to, Brian? 9 4/5 is?
9. Wait. 10.
And 5 1/3 is?
5.
5. And I'm sure most of you can do 10 times 5, which happens to be 2. This, ladies and gentlemen, pretty much concludes the whole